Get your black ass off my street, trash. Officer Jake Morrison snatches the coffee cup from Cooper's hand and hurls it at her chest. Hot liquid explodes across her jacket, soaking through to her skin. She gasps as the heat burns, but before she can even react, his boot comes down hard on her phone. The screen shatters into a spiderweb of glass. Then he sees the notebook in her hand. He rips it from her grip and tears it clean in half. 2 months of careful notes, dates, badge numbers, witness statements, scatter across the wet pavement like confetti. Evidence she can't get back. Cooper stands there, dripping and silent, her jaw locked tight. Morrison leans in close, his breath hot against her face. You people don't belong here. She bites her tongue, eyes like steel. He has no damn clue what's coming for him. Morrison circles her like a predator sizing up wounded prey. His flashlight beam cuts across her face, then down to the scattered papers at her feet. He's enjoying this moment, dragging it out, making sure she feels every second of her humiliation. Let's see some ID, he says, his voice dripping with authority he thinks he's earned. Cooper reaches into her jacket pocket, slowly, deliberately. Her movements are careful, controlled. She pulls out a worn wallet and hands him a driver's license. The name reads Dana Williams. It's not her real name, but he doesn't know that. Can't know that. Morrison studies the ID under his flashlight, taking his sweet time. His partner's cruiser pulls up behind him, red and blue lights washing over the alley in rhythmic pulses. The door opens and Officer Maria Santos steps out, young and uncertain. Santos, just 2 years in, feels her gut twist. Scattered papers, coffee soaking the woman's chest. Morrison's vibe, way too personal, way too aggressive. Everything okay here, Morrison? Santos asks, her hand instinctively moving toward the radio on her shoulder. Just a routine check, Morrison says without looking at her. Dispatch running an ID check on Dana Williams. He reads off the license number into his radio, but Santos notices something odd. His voice sounds performative, like he's putting on a show for someone who isn't even listening. The radio crackles back within seconds. No wants, no warrants. Clean record. Morrison's jaw tightens. He expected something different, wanted something different. Santos watches him carefully now, her instincts screaming that this isn't protocol, this is personal. Wait here, Morrison tells Cooper, then walks back toward his cruiser. His silhouette disappears behind the open trunk, and Santos can hear him moving things around. Metal scrapes against metal. Something clicks. He's back there way too long, rustling in the trunk, zippers, plastic on plastic. Santos steals a glance at Cooper. Their eyes lock for a beat. Cooper is ice calm, sizing Santos up like she's the one on trial, waiting for her to pick a side. Morrison's footsteps return, and there's something different in his walk now, something decisive. He's made up his mind about how this night is going to end. Morrison walks back with his shoulders squared, his entire demeanor shifted. The pretense of a routine check is gone now, replaced by something harder, more calculated. Santos recognizes that look. She's seen it before on officers who've already decided guilt before finding evidence. Stand up, Morrison orders, his voice sharp and commanding. Cooper rises slowly from the wet pavement, her movements fluid despite the coffee-soaked jacket clinging to her skin. She's taller than he expected, and that seems to irritate him further. He doesn't like having to look up, even slightly. Here's the thing, Dana, Morrison says, emphasizing the fake name with obvious skepticism. We've had multiple complaints about this area. Drug activity, prostitution, vagrancy. You fit the profile. Santos shifts, stomach churning. Profile? For what? A black woman chilling by a dumpster? She itches to call bullshit, but Morrison's tight with her training officer. Speaking up? Career suicide. Cooper keeps her voice steady, almost unnaturally calm. Am I being detained, officer? The question hangs in the cold air like a challenge. Morrison's eyes narrow. You people always know your rights, don't you? Always got the script memorized. He steps closer, invading her personal space, his chest nearly touching hers. Yeah, you're being detained, for investigation. Investigation of what crime? Cooper asks, and there's something in her tone, not defiance exactly, but a kind of patient persistence that makes Santos think this woman has been through this before, knows exactly how these encounters work. I'll decide what crime, Morrison snaps. His hand drops to the baton on his belt, fingers drumming against the handle. Once, twice, 3 times. It's a nervous tell, and Cooper notices. She files that information away somewhere in her mind, cataloging his weaknesses like she's building a case. Santos finally finds her voice. Morrison, maybe we should just... Officer Santos. Morrison cuts her off without even looking in her direction. Why don't you run the perimeter? Make sure we don't have any lookouts or partners nearby. It's not a suggestion. It's an order to leave, to look away, to be somewhere else when whatever happens next happens. Santos feels her stomach drop. This is the moment, the choice. Walk away and stay safe, or stay here and potentially ruin her career before it even starts. She takes 2 steps back but doesn't leave. Her hand hovers near her vest, near the small button that activates her body camera. Department policy says cameras should be on during all citizen interactions, but policy and practice are 2 different things in this precinct. Most officers keep them off until absolutely necessary. Too many complaints from citizens, too many disciplinary hearings, too much paperwork when the cameras catch what they're not supposed to catch. Morrison doesn't notice Santos's hesitation. He's too focused on Cooper, too committed to whatever plan is crystallizing in his mind. I'm going to search you, Morrison announces, for officer safety. Do you have probable cause? Cooper asks. And Santos hears something new in her voice now. Not fear, but a kind of clinical interest, like she's taking notes on his procedure, documenting every mistake he makes. Morrison's face flushes red. I smell marijuana, that's the probable cause. Santos frowns. She doesn't smell anything except the coffee still dripping from Cooper's jacket and the garbage from the nearby dumpster. But Morrison said it, put it on record. And now he can justify whatever comes next. That's how it works. An officer's word against a civilian's. Guess who wins that fight every single time? Turn around, Morrison orders. Hands on the wall. Cooper complies, placing her palms flat against the brick wall of the building. Her posture is relaxed, cooperative, giving him no reason to escalate. But Santos sees her eyes, sharp, alert, tracking Morrison's reflection in a puddle of water at her feet. Morrison's pat-down turns rough, hands lingering way too long. Not for weapons, for power, to break her. Santos has seen this before, the way some officers use the authority of the search to humiliate, to dominate, to remind people exactly where they stand in the hierarchy. What's your badge number? Cooper asks, her voice still maddeningly calm. Morrison freezes mid-search. His jaw clenches so hard Santos can see the muscle jump. Nobody asks for badge numbers, not the innocent, and definitely not the guilty. People who ask for badge numbers are people who plan to file complaints, people who understand the system well enough to use it. Are you threatening me? Morrison's voice drops to something dangerous and low. I'm asking for your badge number, Cooper repeats. It's my right. Santos shifts uncomfortably, wants to de-escalate, but Morrison cuts that thought dead with a look. Santos, you getting this? Morrison asks, his voice suddenly louder, more official, playing for an imaginary audience. The subject is being non-compliant, asking irrelevant questions, attempting to obstruct a lawful investigation. That's not what's happening, and they all know it. But Morrison is building a narrative, laying groundwork for a report that will justify whatever comes next. Santos has read enough case files to recognize the language. Non-compliant, obstructing, officer safety concerns. These are the magic words that make questionable arrests disappear into the system. Cooper turns her head slightly, just enough to look at Santos directly. Officer, how long have you been on the force? The question catches Santos off guard. 2 years. Long enough to know what's right, Cooper says quietly. And something in those words feels like a test, like an offering of alliance, like a lifeline thrown across a dark gap. Morrison grabs Cooper's shoulder and spins her back to face the wall. Don't talk to my partner. You talk to me. His other hand moves to his belt, and Santos sees him check his watch. Once. Then again, 10 seconds later. Why is he checking the time? What's he waiting for? The behavior doesn't match the situation. This isn't a routine search anymore, if it ever was. The radio on Morrison's belt crackles. A distant voice reports a traffic stop 3 blocks away, routine and mundane. The city continues around them, oblivious to what's unfolding in this alley. Here's how this is going to go, Morrison says, his voice quiet enough that only the 3 of them can hear. I'm going to search your pockets. If I find what I think I'm going to find, you're going downtown. You're going to spend the night in holding, maybe longer. And in the morning, you're going to wish you'd been nicer to me when you had the chance. Santos feels something cold settle in her chest. That's not how arrests work. That's not procedure. That's a threat wrapped in a promise wrapped in a badge. Cooper doesn't respond. She just stands there, hands on the wall, waiting. But Santos sees her shoulders rise and fall with one deep, controlled breath, like she's preparing for something, like she knows exactly what's about to happen. Morrison's hand slides into Cooper's jacket pocket, and when it comes back out, he's holding something that wasn't there before, something small and plastic, something that's going to change everything. Morrison's hand emerges from Cooper's pocket holding a small plastic baggie, white powder inside, pre-packaged, sealed tight, the kind of evidence that looks clean and professional in a photograph. Well, 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 Morrison says, his voice theatrical. What do we have here? Santos stares at the baggie, her mind racing. She watched Morrison approach Cooper from behind during the pat-down. I watched his hand disappear into the jacket pocket. Something about the motion was wrong, too quick, too practiced. Cooper doesn't speak, doesn't protest or argue or claim innocence. She just stands there, her face unreadable, her eyes fixed on Morrison with an intensity that makes Santos shiver. This is cocaine, Morrison announces, holding the baggie up to the streetlight. Looks like about 3 grams. That's felony possession. That's jail time. Santos finds her voice, though it comes out smaller than she intended. Morrison, I didn't see... Didn't see what, Santos? Morrison cuts her off, his tone sharp with warning. Didn't see her carrying drugs? That's because they were hidden. That's why we search. But Santos did see something. She saw Morrison's hand empty when he started the search, and full when he finished. She saw the baggie appear like a magic trick, sleight of hand performed by someone who's done this before. Cooper finally speaks, her voice low and steady. I want a lawyer. You'll get one, Morrison says, pulling out his handcuffs. The metal catches the light, glinting cold and official. After we process you downtown, after you're booked and photographed and fingerprinted. He moves behind Cooper, grabbing her wrists and pulling them back. The cuffs snap closed, click, 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 and Santos hears them ratchet 3 times. Too tight. Morrison knows they're too tight. Cooper doesn't flinch, doesn't make a sound. But Santos sees her jaw tighten, sees the tendons in her neck go rigid. Morrison keys his radio. Dispatch, this is Unit 12. I have one in custody, felony possession, requesting transport. The radio crackles back. Copy, Unit 12. Transport en route, ETA for 10 minutes. Santos watches Morrison's face as he waits for the response. She sees something there that turns her stomach. Relief. Like he just cleared a hurdle he wasn't sure he'd make. Santos, grab her belongings, Morrison orders, gesturing to the scattered papers. Bag it all as evidence. Santos crouches down, collecting the torn pages with shaking hands. She sees partial words, fragments of sentences, dates and times, badge numbers. The word complaint appears multiple times. These aren't random notes. These are records. The kind someone makes when they're building a case. Against who? Santos looks up at Cooper, and for just a second, their eyes meet again. Cooper's expression hasn't changed. Still calm, still controlled, but there's something in her gaze now. Not fear, not anger. Something closer to patience. Like she's waiting for Santos to understand. Morrison pulls Cooper toward his cruiser, one hand gripping her upper arm hard enough to bruise. He opens the back door and guides her inside with unnecessary force. The door slams shut. Through the window, Santos can see Cooper sitting perfectly upright in the back seat, her posture straight despite the handcuffs. She's not slumped or defeated. She looks like someone in complete control, someone playing a long game that no one else can see yet. Morrison walks back to Santos, his swagger returned. "Good collar," he says, clapping Santos on the shoulder. "This is what real police work looks like, taking trash off the streets." The words hit Santos like a physical blow. Trash. He called her trash at the beginning. Now he's saying it again like it's a joke they're both in on. Santos nods but doesn't respond. Her hand moves to her vest, fingers brushing against the small button near her collar. The body camera. It's been off this entire time, following the unspoken rule, don't record unless you have to. But something tells Santos she's going to regret not having footage of what just happened. That baggie appeared out of nowhere, those cuffs clicking too tight. That word, trash, said twice now, like it's nothing. Her finger hovers over the activation button. Morrison is already walking back to his cruiser, climbing into the driver's seat, ready to transport his prize downtown. He doesn't notice Santos standing frozen in the alley, her hand still pressed against her vest, her heart pounding in her ears. The transport radio crackles. 5 minutes out. Santos takes a breath. Make a decision that will change everything. She presses the button. The tiny red light on her body camera blinks to life. The ride to the station takes 12 minutes. Santos follows Morrison's cruiser in her own patrol car, her hands gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary. Through Morrison's rear window, she can see Cooper sitting motionless in the back seat, her silhouette perfectly still against the passing streetlights. Santos replays the scene in her mind, frame by frame. The pat-down. Morrison's hand entered the pocket empty. The baggie appeared as if from nowhere. The way Cooper didn't react, didn't protest, like she expected it to happen. The body camera on Santos's vest continues recording, its tiny red light blinking steadily. She made the decision to turn it on, but now she's not sure what to do with the footage. Morrison is friends with her training officer. Morrison has 6 years on the force. Morrison knows people. Santos has been a cop for 2 years and 3 months. She's nobody. They pull into the precinct parking lot just before 7 in the morning. An early shift is starting to trickle in. Patrol officers grabbing coffee, detectives heading to their desks, the station coming alive with the routine machinery of law enforcement. Morrison parks and opens the back door of his cruiser. Cooper steps out with careful dignity, her movements precise despite the handcuffs binding her wrists behind her back. Morrison grips her elbow and guides her toward the entrance, walking faster than necessary, like he wants this over with quickly. Santos follows them inside, the station's fluorescent lights humming overhead with their familiar industrial buzz. The front desk is manned by Officer Lewis, a 20-year veteran with salt and pepper hair and tired eyes that have seen too much of everything. Lewis looks up from his computer as Morrison approaches Cooper. His expression doesn't change, but Santos sees his eyes narrow slightly, taking in the scene. The coffee stain still visible on Cooper's jacket. The torn papers in the evidence bag Santos carries, the way Morrison is breathing just a bit too fast. "Got a live one, Lewis," Morrison announces. "Felony possession. Cocaine. Found it during a lawful search." Lewis pecks at the keyboard, eyes on Cooper. "Name?" "Dana Williams," Morrison says before Cooper can answer. "I can speak for myself," Cooper says quietly, and Lewis's eyebrows rise slightly at her tone. It's not defiant or angry. It's simply matter of fact, the voice of someone used to being heard. Lewis continues typing. Address? Cooper provides one. A shelter address Santos recognizes from the east side. Lewis enters it, then pauses. Occupation? Morrison snorts. Unemployed, obviously. But Lewis waits, looking directly at Cooper. Cooper meets his eyes. Law enforcement. Boom! Silence drops like a gavel. Morrison's smile falters. She's lying. Probably trying to... What agency? Lewis asks, his voice calm but suddenly razor-sharp. Cooper doesn't blink. State police. Morrison's laugh is forced now, uncomfortable. Yeah, right. And I'm the governor. Lewis, just book her. But Lewis isn't laughing. He's studying Cooper with an intensity that makes Santos lean forward. Lewis has been doing this job since before Santos was born. He's processed thousands of arrests, and something about Cooper is making him pause. You got an ID to back that up? Lewis asks. It was in my jacket, Cooper says. Inner pocket. Your officer didn't search thoroughly enough to find it. Morrison's face flushes. I did a complete search. She's making things up. Lewis holds up one hand. Where's her personal property? Santos steps forward, holding out the evidence bag with Cooper's scattered belongings. Lewis takes it, dumps the contents onto the desk. Torn notebook pages, granola bars, a water bottle, the wallet Morrison already searched. Anything else? Lewis asks Cooper. Inner pocket, Cooper repeats. Left side. Zippered compartment. Lewis looks at Morrison. You want to check, or should I? Morrison's jaw clenches. I already checked. There's nothing there. Then you won't mind if I verify, Lewis says. He walks around the desk and approaches Cooper. Ma'am, I'm going to search your jacket. Is that all right? Please do, Cooper says. Lewis's fingers find the inner pocket Morrison missed, or chose not to find. There's a zipper, small and hidden in the lining. He opens it and pulls out a thin leather card holder. Inside is an ID card, official and laminated. Lewis pulls the ID. Real deal. Commander Cooper, State Police Chief of Operations. The seal is official. The photo matches. The credentials are undeniable. He flips it toward Morrison. Sergeant, we've got a massive problem. Morrison's face? Ghost white. The color drains so fast, Santos thinks he might pass out. That's fake, Morrison says, but his voice has lost all its confidence, all its swagger. It has to be fake. I was conducting a field evaluation, Cooper says, and now her voice carries weight, authority that was hidden before. Of this precinct. Specifically, investigating complaints of excessive force and racial profiling. Complaints filed against you, Officer Morrison. The station suddenly feels very quiet. Santos realizes other officers have stopped what they're doing, conversations trailing off mid-sentence, everyone turning to watch. Lewis sets the ID down carefully on the desk, like it's evidence in a crime scene. Which, Santos realizes with growing horror, it is. Ma'am, Lewis says to Cooper, his tone completely changed now, respectful and professional. I'm going to remove those handcuffs. Morrison, step back. Morrison doesn't move. He's staring at the ID like it might change if he looks at it long enough, like reality might rearrange itself into something less catastrophic. Santos's body camera is still recording, has been recording this entire exchange, the moment Morrison planted evidence, the moment he lied about the search, the moment everything fell apart. Lewis unlocks the handcuffs. They fall away from Cooper's wrists, and she brings her hands forward, rubbing her wrists where the metal bit into skin. Red marks circle both wrists, angry and visible. Officer Lewis, Cooper says quietly, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent lobby. How long have you known Officer Morrison? Lewis hesitates, glancing at Morrison one more time. 6 years, ma'am, since he joined the force. And in those 6 years, have you ever had concerns about his conduct? The question hangs in the air. Santos sees the moment Lewis makes his choice, the moment he decides truth matters more than loyalty, more than the unspoken code that protects bad cops. "Yes, ma'am," Lewis says, his voice steady and clear. "I have." Morrison's knees seem to buckle slightly. He reaches out, grabs the edge of the desk for support. His mouth opens, but no words come out. Santos watches it all through the lens of her body camera, documenting every second, every expression, every moment of justice finally arriving after years of being delayed. Cooper stands in the center of the precinct lobby, rubbing her wrists where the handcuffs left red marks. Officers who were pretending not to watch are now openly staring. The morning shift change is in full swing, which means witnesses, lots of witnesses. Morrison hasn't moved. He's frozen 3 feet from the desk, his face a mask of disbelief and growing panic. His hand keeps moving toward his radio, then stopping, like his body can't decide what to do. "I need to make a phone call," Cooper says to Lewis. Her voice is calm, measured, but Santos hears something underneath it now. Command. Authority that was there all along, just hidden. Lewis nods. "Of course, ma'am. Interview room 2 is available. It's private." "That won't be necessary," Cooper says. "I'll use the phone here." She wants everyone to hear this. Santos realizes that with a jolt. Cooper wants every officer in this building to witness what happens next. Lewis slides the desk phone toward her. Cooper picks up the receiver, and Santos notices her hands are steady. No tremor, no hesitation. She dials a long number from memory, each tone echoing in the suddenly quiet lobby. "Ring 1. Ring 2. Morrison blurts, "You can't. This is secure." Lewis cuts him off. "Shut it, Jake." The phone clicks as someone answers. A professional voice, female, crisp and efficient. "Office of the Governor. How may I direct your call?" Santos feels her stomach drop. Around the lobby, officers exchange glances. Someone drops a coffee cup. It hits the floor but doesn't break, just rolls in a slow circle. "This is Commander Cooper," Cooper says into the phone. "I need to speak with Governor Patterson. Priority 1. There's a pause. Santos can hear her own heartbeat in her ears, can hear Morrison's breathing getting faster and faster. "One moment, Commander," the voice says. "Patching you through now." The line clicks. Hold music plays for exactly 5 seconds, then cuts off. "Cooper, tell me you nailed it." Governor Patterson's voice booms through the receiver, all business. Morrison's face goes from pale to gray. His hand finally finds his radio, but he doesn't key it. Just hold it like a lifeline. Cooper keeps her eyes on Morrison as she speaks. "Yes, sir. Evidence of racial profiling, excessive force, and evidence tampering. Officer Jake Morrison, badge number 4362, planted cocaine on my person during an unlawful search. It's all documented." "Documented how?" the governor asks. Santos feels every eye in the room turn toward her. Her hand moves unconsciously to the body camera on her vest. "Body camera footage," Cooper says. "Officer Maria Santos activated her camera. She witnessed the entire incident." Morrison's eyes snap to Santos, wide and desperate. She sees the calculation happening behind them, measuring loyalty, measuring threat, measuring how completely his life just fell apart. The governor's voice comes through the phone speaker, loud enough now that everyone nearby can hear. "Commander Cooper, I'm activating the State Police Internal Affairs Unit. They'll be at your location within the hour. Nobody involved in this incident leaves that building. Nobody." Cooper looks at Morrison, holds his gaze. "Understood, sir," she says. "We'll be waiting." The phone call ends with a click that echoes through the silent lobby. Cooper sets the receiver down gently, like she's closing the door on Morrison's career, on his freedom, on everything he thought he could get away with. Morrison's radio slips from his hand. It hits the floor with a plastic crack. He doesn't bend down to pick it up. "This is insane," Morrison says, and his voice sounds hollow, like he's speaking from the bottom of a well. "You can't! I'm a police officer! I have rights! "You have the right to remain silent," Cooper says. "I suggest you use it." Lewis steps forward, positioning himself between Morrison and the exit. It's subtle, but Santos notices. Lewis is blocking the door now, his body language shifting from desk sergeant to guard. The station intercom crackles to life. "Captain Reeves to the front desk! Captain Reeves to the front desk immediately!" Santos has never heard the intercom used for the captain before. The fact that someone is paging him publicly means this situation has already spread through the building like wildfire. Footsteps pound down the stairs. Fast, urgent. Captain Reeves appears in the lobby, his tie loose, his face flushed like he ran the whole way. He's 58 years old, 30 years on the force, and Santos has never seen him look scared. He looks scared now. Reeves' eyes scan the scene, Cooper standing calm and composed despite the coffee stain on her jacket, Morrison gray-faced and shaking, Lewis guarding the door, the desk phone still warm from the governor's call. "Commander Cooper," Reeves says, and his voice is careful, respectful. "I apologize. I had no idea you we weren't informed." "That was intentional," Cooper says. "The undercover evaluation was need to know only. You weren't on the list." Reeves flinches like she slapped him. He runs a hand through his gray hair and Santos sees it trembling. "What do you need from me?" "Officer Morrison is not to leave this building," Cooper says. "He's to be placed in an interview room and kept under observation until Internal Affairs arrives. He's not to speak with anyone, not to make phone calls, not to access any files." "Understood." Reeves turns to Morrison. "Jake, you need to come with me." Morrison doesn't move. His eyes are fixed on Cooper and there's something desperate in his expression. "This is entrapment. You set me up. I gave you every opportunity to do the right thing," Cooper says, and her voice is colder now, harder. "You saw a black woman alone on the street and decided she was trash. You decided she didn't deserve respect or rights or basic human dignity. Those were your choices, Officer Morrison. I didn't make them for you." The words hit like physical blows. Around the lobby, conversations die mid-sentence. Officers stop moving. Everyone turns to watch. Morrison's mouth opens, closes, opens again. No sound comes out. "You planted evidence on a superior officer," Cooper continues. "You assaulted her. You violated her civil rights. You falsified a police report. And you did it all because you thought you could, because you thought I was powerless." She takes one step closer to him. Just one. But Morrison backs away, his hand reaching for the desk to steady himself. His knees look unsteady. "I want my union rep," Morrison says, and his voice cracks on the last word. "I want my lawyer. You'll get them," Reeves says. His voice is flat now, professional. "But first, you're going into that interview room. Lewis, escort Officer Morrison to IR3. Stay with him until IA arrives." Lewis moves forward, and Morrison has no choice but to go with him. As he passes Santos, he stops, turns to face her. "You recorded this," Morrison says. "It's not a question. Your body camera. You recorded everything." Santos meets his eyes. She thinks about the 2 years she's been on this force, the things she's seen and stayed quiet about, the compromises she's made to fit in, to survive. She thinks about the choice she made in that alley, her finger hovering over the activation button. "Yes," Santos says. "I recorded everything." Morrison's face crumples, not angry now, something worse. The moment he realizes he's not getting out of this, that the evidence is real and documented and undeniable. Lewis takes Morrison's arm gently but firmly. "Come on, Jake, let's go." They walk toward the interview rooms, Morrison's feet dragging like a man walking to his execution. The lobby watches them go in absolute silence. Cooper turns to Santos. Their eyes meet, and Santos sees something in the commander's expression she didn't expect. Gratitude. "Officer Santos," Cooper says quietly, "thank you for turning on your camera." Santos nods. She can't trust her voice right now. Can't trust herself not to cry or shake from the adrenaline crash that's starting to hit her. "That took courage," Cooper continues. Real courage. The kind this job needs. Reeves clears his throat. Commander, my office is available if you need privacy. I can get you coffee, fresh clothes. I'll wait here, Cooper says, until IA arrives. I want to make sure the proper chain of custody is maintained for all evidence. She's not taking any chances, not trusting anyone in this building to handle this investigation. Santos understands that completely. The station returns to a simulacrum of normal activity, but nothing feels normal. Officers move through their routines, but everyone is hyper-aware of Cooper standing in the lobby, of Morrison locked in an interview room, of the weight of what just happened. Santos touches her body camera. The red light is still blinking, still recording, still bearing witness. Cooper stands in the precinct lobby for 43 minutes. She doesn't sit. Don't ask for water or coffee or a place to clean up. She just waits, her posture straight, her eyes alert, watching every officer who passes through. Santos stays nearby, not sure if she's supposed to leave or stay, not sure what her role is anymore. The body camera on her vest continues recording, documenting everything. The nervous glances from passing officers, the whispered conversations that stop when Cooper looks in their direction. 7:48 a.m. 3 black SUVs screech into the parking lot like Avengers. Through the front windows, Santos watches 6 people in suits step out, moving like a tactical unit. Lead. Walsh, 50s, no nonsense, briefcase like a weapon. She pushes through the front doors and walks directly to Cooper. Commander Cooper, Walsh says, extending her hand. Deputy Commissioner Walsh, IA Division. The governor briefed me personally. Are you all right? Cooper shakes her hand. I'm fine. The evidence needs to be secured immediately. Officer Santos has body camera footage. Officer Morrison's dash cam and GPS logs need to be pulled. And I need access to his internal affairs file. Walsh nods, already pulling out a tablet. We're on it. Captain Reeves? Reeves steps forward, looking like he aged 10 years in the last hour. Ma'am, I need Morrison's service record, his IA file, and access to your complaint database, Walsh says. Also, I need a list of every case he's worked on in the past 24 months. Arrests, citations, everything. Yes, ma'am. Right away. Walsh turns to Santos. Officer Santos, you're the one who activated your body camera? Santos nods, her throat suddenly dry. Yes, ma'am. That footage is now evidence in a state investigation, Walsh says. I need you to surrender your camera immediately, and I need a detailed statement. You're not in trouble, officer. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. Relief hits Santos like a wave. Dizzy, but damn, it's sweet. Cooper steps closer to Walsh, her voice low. Morrison planted cocaine on me. It should still be logged in evidence intake. The baggie needs to be processed for his prints and DNA. Walsh's expression hardens. Planted evidence. That's a felony. Multiple felonies, Cooper corrects. And I don't think this was his first time. Walsh commandeers the precinct's main conference room and turns it into a command center within 20 minutes. Laptops open on the long table, file boxes stacked against the wall. 2 investigators already pulling data from the servers. Cooper sits at the head of the table, still wearing her coffee-stained jacket, but now she looks exactly like what she is, a commander running an operation. Santos stood near the door, her body camera surrendered, but Walsh asked her to stay. You're a material witness. I need you here. Morrison is still locked in interview room 3. Reeves posted 2 officers outside his door. Walsh opens her briefcase and pulls out a slim laptop. Commander, walk me through the encounter from the beginning. Cooper does, her voice clinical and precise. Every detail, the time Morrison arrived, the words he used, the coffee thrown in her face, the phone he destroyed, the notebook he tore. Walsh's face hardens with each sentence. He called you what? Walsh asks. Cooper doesn't hesitate. He said, get your black ass off my street, trash. Walsh types rapidly. Racial slur, assault, destruction of property. Continue. Cooper describes the pat-down, Morrison's disappearance to his trunk, the planted baggie. Walsh's fingers never stop moving. "Officer Santos," Walsh says without looking up, "your body camera captured all of this?" "Yes, ma'am," Santos says, "from the moment I activated it during the arrest through intake here at the station." "Timeline?" Santos checks her watch. "I activated the camera at 6:37 a.m. It recorded continuously until I surrendered it to you at 7:51. 74 minutes of footage." One of Walsh's investigators, a younger man with wire-rimmed glasses, looks up from his laptop. "Deputy Commissioner, I've pulled Santos's body cam footage from the server. Timestamp confirms activation at 06:37. "Play it," Walsh says. "Full screen." The investigator connects his laptop to the conference room monitor. The screen flickers to life, and suddenly they're watching Morrison's cruiser pull up to the alley. The audio is crystal clear. "Get your black ass off my street, trash!" Walsh's jaw tightens. The footage continues. Morrison circled Cooper. The coffee cup was thrown. Cooper gasping. Morrison's boot destroyed her phone. The notebook ripped in half. "Pause it," Walsh says. The image freezes. Morrison's face twisted with contempt. "That's assault and destruction of property. Multiple counts. Continue." The video plays. Then comes the pat-down. "Slow this section down," Walsh orders. "Frame by frame." They watch Morrison position himself behind Cooper during the search. Watch his hand approach her jacket pocket. Morrison's hand enters the pocket empty. His hand emerges holding the baggie. "There," Cooper says quietly. Walsh leans forward. "Back it up. Play it again." They watched it 3 more times. Each viewing makes it more obvious. Morrison's sleight of hand isn't as smooth as he thought. "That's evidence planting," Walsh says. "Felony evidence tampering. 3 to 7 years minimum." "There's more," Cooper says. "He disappeared to his trunk for approximately 3 minutes before the plant. That's when he retrieved the cocaine." The investigator with the glasses speaks up. "I'm pulling his dash cam footage now. Give me 2 minutes." Walsh turns to another investigator, a black woman in her 40s. "Jenkins, run Morrison's GPS logs for the past 48 hours. "On it," Jenkins says. The room falls into focused silence. Santos watches them work with something approaching awe. This is what real police work looks like. "Got the dash cam," the first investigator announces. He pulls up the footage. "This is from Morrison's cruiser starting at 06:20. They watch Morrison's dash cam perspective. The cruiser pulls up. Morrison sits watching Cooper for 43 seconds. Then he exits. "Fast forward to when he goes back to his vehicle," Walsh orders. The footage jumps ahead. Morrison returns to his cruiser, opens the trunk. The dash cam doesn't show inside, but it captures audio. Come on. Where did I? There." Metal scrapes. A zipper opens. "Just need one more insurance policy," Morrison mutters. Walsh rewinds it, plays it again. "He's talking about the drugs," Cooper says. "That's premeditation." "Jenkins," Walsh says sharply. "GPS logs. Where was Morrison between 05:30 and 06:20? Jenkins pulls up a map. "He left his patrol zone at 05:32, drove to the police impound facility on Grant Street, arrived at 05:39, departed at 05:54, 15 minutes on site." Walsh's eyes narrow. "What's at the impound facility?" "Evidence storage," Cooper says quietly. The room goes very still. Jenkins pulls up another screen. "Cross-referencing Morrison's access logs. He checked in at 05:41, checked out at 05:52, 11 minutes inside." "What did he access?" Walsh demands. Jenkins types rapidly. "Evidence locker 7B, case number 2019-443. Closed case. Drug seizure from March 2019. Evidence was scheduled for destruction 6 months ago. But," she trails off. "Destruction was postponed. Signed off by Sergeant Philip Hendricks." Cooper leans forward. Hendricks is Morrison's direct supervisor. Walsh's expression turns to stone. So Morrison accessed evidence that should have been destroyed but was kept accessible by his supervisor. This is a conspiracy. We need Hendricks in custody, Walsh says. Where is he? Reeves steps forward. He's on duty, scheduled to arrive at 8 a.m. That's 3 minutes from now. When he arrives, bring him directly here, Walsh orders. Cooper pulls out her phone and hands it to Walsh. I've been documenting complaints against Morrison for 3 months. These are photographs of official complaint forms. 8 complaints in the past 2 years, all investigated by Hendricks, all dismissed as unfounded. Walsh scrolls through the images, her face growing darker. 6 of the 8 complainants were black, Cooper continues. 7 of 8 arrests involved drugs discovered during searches. 8 out of 8 dismissals signed by Hendricks within 72 hours. This is systemic, Walsh says. Jenkins looks up. Deputy Commissioner, I pulled Morrison's arrest record. She turns her laptop screen around. Morrison's stats? 73 arrests in 2 years. 61 black or Hispanic. 49 drug busts. Department average, 18%. His rate? 67%. That's not policing. That's targeting. Pull every single one of those cases, Walsh orders. Body cam, dash cam, everything. If Morrison planted evidence on a state police commander, how many times did he do it to people with no power? Santos feels sick. How many innocent people are in jail because she didn't speak up earlier? Officer Santos, Walsh says, you did the right thing today. You broke the pattern. Before Santos can respond, there's a knock on the door. A uniformed officer appears. Deputy Commissioner, Sergeant Hendricks just arrived. Walsh stands. Bring him in. 30 seconds later, Sergeant Phil Hendricks walks into the conference room. He's 50, barrel-chested, with confident swagger. His eyes scan the room, the laptops, the investigators, the files. Then he sees Cooper. His face goes white. Commander Cooper, Hendricks says carefully. Sit down, Sergeant, Walsh interrupts. We need to discuss your relationship with Officer Morrison and your role in dismissing complaints against him. Hendricks sits, his hands shaking. I don't know what you're talking about. Walsh turns the laptop screen toward him. Case number 2019-443. Drug evidence that should have been destroyed 6 months ago. You postponed the destruction. Why? Hendricks stares at the screen. There was a paperwork issue. Morrison accessed that evidence locker this morning at 0541, Walsh says. 47 minutes before he planted cocaine on Commander Cooper. Did you give him the access code? No, I didn't. Cooper leans forward. Sergeant Hendricks, I personally reviewed 8 complaints filed against Morrison. You investigated all 8. You dismissed all 8 within 72 hours. Some included witness statements, photographic evidence, medical records. Yet you found them all unfounded. Explain how. Hendricks doesn't answer. Your options are limited, Walsh says coldly. Cooperate and maybe we can talk about reducing charges, or go down with Morrison. Either way, your career is over. The question is whether you spend the next decade in prison or the next 5. The silence stretches. Santos can hear Hendricks breathing, fast and shallow. Finally, Hendricks speaks, barely a whisper. Morrison caught me skimming cash from evidence seizures 2 years ago. Said he wouldn't report it if I buried his complaints. Made them disappear. The room erupts. Investigators typing, Walsh firing questions. Cooper just sits there, watching Hendricks fall apart. Walsh stands. Sergeant Hendricks, you're under arrest for evidence tampering, conspiracy to violate civil rights, and theft. You have the right to remain silent. As Walsh reads Hendricks his rights, Santos catches Cooper's eye across the table. Cooper nods once. You did good, that nod says. Santos nods back, and for the first time in 2 years, she feels like a real police officer. 3 hours later, Cooper stands in the precinct parking lot as two state police vehicles pull away. Morrison sits in the back of one, hands cuffed behind him, staring straight ahead. Hendricks is in the other vehicle, his face buried in his hands. The morning sun is fully up now, bright and cold. Cooper watches the vehicles disappear around the corner, lights fading into the distance. Captain Reeves approaches her cautiously. "Commander Cooper, I want to apologize. If I had known what was happening." "You should have known," Cooper says. 8 complaints in 2 years. Pattern evidence in arrest records. You had the data. You chose not to look. Reeves's face goes pale. "I'll submit my resignation." "No," Cooper says. "You're going to stay. You're going to fix this. Because if you resign, someone else takes over who didn't see what happened here today. Let it change you." Reeves nods slowly. Santos appears in the doorway, still in uniform but exhausted. She walks over to Cooper. "Officer Santos," Cooper says. "Walk with me." They head toward Cooper's car parked 3 blocks away. "You're wondering if you did the right thing," Cooper says. Santos doesn't deny it. "Morrison's wife called. She was crying. They have 2 kids." "And how many kids have parents in jail because Morrison planted evidence?" Cooper asks. "How many families did he destroy?" Santos is quiet. "I know. I worked with him for 2 years." "Racism doesn't require monsters," Cooper says. "It just requires people who look at someone like me and see trash instead of a human being." They reach Cooper's car. "What happens now?" Santos asks. "Walsh's team reviews every arrest Morrison made in the past 2 years," Cooper says. "Anyone convicted based on evidence Morrison discovered gets their case reopened. Some will be exonerated." "And Morrison?" "Multiple felonies, evidence tampering, assault, civil rights violations. With your body cam footage, he'll probably get 5 to 7 years. Santos absorbs this. "Did you know he would plant evidence?" Cooper considers the question. "I knew he had a pattern. I suspected, but I didn't know for certain until I felt that baggie drop into my pocket." "You could have identified yourself immediately." "If I had, Morrison would still be on the street," Cooper says. "He would have been more careful, but he wouldn't have stopped. Men like Morrison don't stop until they're caught with real evidence." She opens her car door. "You saw something wrong, and you documented it. That's the job. Not protecting other cops. Protecting people. All people." Santos straightens slightly. "What do I do now?" Santos asks. "Half the officers are going to hate me." "Probably," Cooper agrees. "But the other half, the ones who became cops to actually help people, they're going to respect you. Over time, that's going to matter more." She pulls out a business card. "This is my direct number. If anyone retaliates, you call me immediately." Santos takes the card. "Thank you, Commander." Cooper starts to get in, then stops. "When you press that button, what made you do it?" Santos thinks for a moment. "I looked at your face and saw my mother. She's been pulled over for driving while brown 4 times in 3 years. Every time she comes home shaking. I thought, what if some cop plants something on her?" Cooper feels something in her chest loosen. "Your mother is lucky to have you. She wanted me to be a teacher." "You are," Cooper says. "You just chose a different classroom." Cooper gets in and starts the engine. Through the window, she sees Santos walking back toward the precinct, shoulders squared. Cooper pulls out her phone and dials. Governor Patterson answers immediately. "Cooper, tell me you're all right." "I'm fine, sir. Morrison and Hendricks are in custody. Walsh has the evidence. But we need to talk about the other precincts on the audit list." "How many more?" Cooper looks at her tablet. 36, sir. And that's just Pennsylvania." The governor is quiet. "You know what this means? The lawsuits, the media, the political cost?" "I know," Cooper says. "But there are people in prison for crimes they didn't commit. They deserve justice, no matter the cost. Agreed. When can you start the next audit? Cooper pulls out of the parking space. Give me a week. I need to testify at Morrison's arraignment. After that, I'll be ready. What you did today matters, the governor says. You changed something fundamental. Cooper thinks about the coffee stain on her jacket. Meta, pause. Sex the bruises on her wrists, the torn notebook. She thinks about Santos pressing that button. It wasn't just me, sir, Cooper says. It never is. She ends the call and drives through the city as it wakes up. People heading to work, kids walking to school, life continuing. Cooper passes a woman at a bus stop. Black, middle-aged, tired. Their eyes meet for a second. The woman doesn't know who Cooper is, doesn't know the battle just fought on her behalf. But Cooper knows, and that's enough. She reaches the highway and merges into traffic, heading toward the state capitol, toward the next fight. Behind her, the city continues. Changed because one officer pressed a button. Changed because one sergeant asked questions. Changed because one commander refused to accept that anyone deserves to be called trash. Cooper guns the engine. The badge? It ain't power. How do you wield it? That's the real game changer. Santos pressed that button when it mattered most. If this story reminded you why courage matters, even when it costs you something, show it by hitting that like button below. And if you believe more people need to hear stories where justice actually wins, subscribe, because there are 36 more precincts on Cooper's list, and every single one has a story that needs to be told.